From Cleveland, a quiet controversy is beginning to surface around rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders. Multiple insiders now suggest that the Browns' coaching staff may be restricting his ability to play his natural style of football. As the discussion grows, one question is becoming unavoidable. Why is Shedeur being held back?
Tommy Rees and Kevin Stefanski pretty much putting a leash around Shedeur's throwing arm. Yes, a leash around his arm. He can't throw the ball. Shedeur Sanders haven't had more than 25 pass attempts since he's been the starting quarterback.
The discussion began gaining momentum after a pointed remark circulating among Browns fans. The claim was simple but provocative. Tommy Rees and Kevin Stefanski were putting a leash on Shedeur Sanders' throwing arm, limiting him to such an extent that he has not surpassed 25 pass attempts in any of his starts. For a rookie quarterback adjusting to NFL speed, that statistic alone created a wave of questions about the team's long-term intentions. From the outside, it appears unusual. Sanders earned national attention at Jackson State and Colorado by doing exactly the opposite, throwing aggressively, pushing the ball downfield, and creating momentum through high-risk, high-reward passing sequences. His reputation was shaped by deep ball accuracy, a quick release, and an ability to navigate pressure without losing composure. Those who followed his college career expected Cleveland to lean into that strength. Instead, the early strategy seems designed to reduce his role rather than expand it. The statistical picture reinforces this concern. Across 3 starts, Sanders has logged just 61 total pass attempts. Spread across 3 games, it places him at the very bottom of the league in usage. When compared to other rookie or developmental quarterbacks, some of whom regularly attempt 32 to 45 passes per game, the contrast becomes even more striking. Analysts and fans alike are now questioning whether limiting pass volume is truly helping Sanders adapt, or if it is inadvertently slowing his progress. Supporters of Sanders argue that development comes from repetition, from seeing defenses react, and from gaining confidence in reading the field. Limiting attempts, they say, deprives him of the opportunity to grow. The more he throws, the more film he creates, and the easier it becomes for coaches to evaluate what needs improvement. Without those reps, Sanders remains in a holding pattern, gaining experience at a much slower pace than expected. On the other side, there are those who believe Stefanski's approach reflects caution rather than distrust. With weather challenges, offensive instability, and a shifting depth chart, the coaching staff may feel that protecting Sanders is more important in the short term than testing the limits of his arm. Their priority, according to this viewpoint, is to minimize turnovers, reduce pressure, and introduce him to the league gradually. Yet the central question remains unresolved. Is Shedeur Sanders being protected from failure or prevented from success? The lack of pass attempts may be strategic, but its impact is now the subject of public scrutiny. As the season continues, the Browns will eventually need to decide whether maintaining this conservative framework benefits their rookie quarterback, or whether it is time to let him play the way he was built to play.
In what was supposed to be a developmental year.
Okay.
His numbers are terrible. The analytics are terrible.
I
didn't hold that against him.
And if you want to turn him loose, and it seems that the general pub, 216-474-0092, do you want to turn Shedeur loose on Sunday? Do you want to do it?
Because this is the week, too. This is not the Bears. It's not the Bills.
I'll give you my answer on this.
It's not teams that are vying for playoff contention. It's the worst team in the NFL.
The conversation continued to intensify after a segment aired on 92.3 The Fan, where local analysts openly questioned the Browns' handling of Shedeur Sanders. Their remarks were blunt. This season was supposed to be a developmental year, and although Sanders' numbers and analytics currently look poor, those statistics were not the focus. Instead, the analysts centered on a more fundamental issue, whether the coaching staff was allowing him to develop at all. Their discussion highlighted a growing sentiment within the fan base. Development cannot happen without opportunity. Sanders cannot improve decision-making, timing, or accuracy if he is rarely allowed to throw the football. The analysts pointed out that many rookie quarterbacks struggle early, but they struggle while learning, not while being restricted. In their view, The Browns seem hesitant to let Sanders make mistakes, a hesitation that may be slowing his long-term progress. The weather was also part of the conversation. Cleveland's cold winds and unpredictable conditions were acknowledged factors, and the analysts noted that Sanders missed at least 2 throws that were directly affected by strong gusts. Yet they argued that the weather cannot be the deciding factor in limiting a quarterback's freedom, especially when the long-term goal is to prepare him for future seasons. Sanders will eventually have to learn how to function in those same conditions. Avoiding them now only delays that adjustment. The panel then shifted focus to the upcoming matchup against Tennessee, described repeatedly as one of the most favorable opponents on the Browns' schedule. The Titans' defensive struggles make the game a low-pressure opportunity, one where Sanders could attempt more passes without the heightened risk associated with elite defenses. This led to the central question posed on air: if the Browns don't let Sanders throw in a game like this, when will they ever let him? For many viewers, the implication was clear. If Sanders remains restricted even in an advantageous matchup, it would signal that the coaching staff's caution is not just situational. It may be philosophical. A deeper hesitation could exist regarding Sanders' readiness or the staff's overall trust in his abilities. Such a conclusion would raise further questions about whether the organization truly views him as a long-term starter or merely as a temporary experiment. In essence, the radio discussion did more than comment on a single game. It illuminated the broader tension surrounding Sanders' development. Is the organization prioritizing immediate safety over long-term growth? The analysts believe that, sooner or later, the Browns must decide what their commitment to Sanders actually looks like, and whether they are willing to let him grow through real, meaningful reps on the field.
Like, I do realize they have not designed this team. Here we go. Told you I was going to find it. Against Pittsburgh, he had 52 passes attempts, guys. 52. There it go. Y'all thought I was lying. Got you. Told you I wasn't lying. But he had 52 pass attempts, bro. Shedeur total in 3 games only had 61. Y'all don't think it's funny business going on in Cleveland? Y'all don't think it's funny business going on in Cleveland? Because I definitely think it do. Y'all obviously...
The debate gained another layer of complexity when comparisons emerged between Shedeur Sanders and fellow Browns quarterback Dylan Gabriel. While statistics alone cannot explain every decision made by a coaching staff, the numbers in this case have become difficult to ignore. In Sanders' first 3 starts, he has been limited to a total of 61 pass attempts, an average far below typical expectations for a developing quarterback. Yet, in a single outing earlier this season, Gabriel recorded 52 pass attempts in 1 game, showing that the Browns' offensive structure is fully capable of supporting a high-volume passing approach when the staff chooses to implement it. This numerical discrepancy has become a focal point for analysts and fans attempting to understand Cleveland's strategy. Gabriel's game demonstrates that the Browns are not philosophically opposed to aggressive passing, nor are they incapable of designing a high-attempt game plan. Instead, the choice appears selective, applied to some quarterbacks but not to Sanders. That inconsistency has led many to conclude that the limitations placed on Sanders may be intentional rather than circumstantial. For Sanders supporters, the issue is not merely about numbers. It is about development, opportunity, and fairness. They argue that repetition is essential for progression, and quarterbacks learn through live action by making reads, reacting to defensive fronts, and adjusting to the speed of the NFL. Restricting Sanders to around 20 passes per game removes the environment in which growth occurs. A quarterback cannot demonstrate improvement without being given the chance to attempt and correct his mistakes. Furthermore, low pass attempts often disrupt offensive rhythm. Receivers struggle to find consistency. Timing relationships weaken, and the overall identity of the offense becomes unclear. Critics say that Sanders is being evaluated under conditions that offer him little control, expected to show progress without being granted the tools needed to produce it. In their view, this approach risks setting him up for criticism that has more to do with coaching decisions than with his own performance. On the other hand, supporters of Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees cite caution as the driving factor behind this conservative strategy. They argue that Sanders is adjusting to the complexities of professional defenses, and limiting his exposure is a method of easing him into the NFL. Fewer attempts mean fewer opportunities for defensive coordinators to exploit his inexperience. In this interpretation, the staff is protecting Sanders from early setbacks, preserving his confidence, and preventing unnecessary turnovers. Weather has also been part of the defense. Cleveland's cold, windy conditions have affected the performance of many quarterbacks, especially those not accustomed to outdoor winter football. Under this lens, the coaching staff may be waiting for more favorable conditions before giving Sanders the freedom to throw a volume. Yet for critics, the rebuttal is simple. Weather can explain a handful of plays, not an entire developmental philosophy. The comparison to Gabriel complicates the argument further. If the weather, the offensive scheme, or the roster instability were truly the primary barriers, then logically those barriers should have applied equally to all quarterbacks. Gabriel's high attempt games suggest that the coaching staff is willing to open the playbook, just not for Sanders. This raises an uncomfortable question about underlying trust, readiness assessment, or internal expectations that have not been publicly stated. Some analysts suggest that Cleveland may be trying to avoid a quarterback controversy. Allowing Sanders to throw deep, take risks, and potentially perform well could intensify debates surrounding the team's long-term plans at the position. Others argue that the staff simply prefers a slow, structured introduction, choosing control over experimentation. Regardless of the explanation, the outcome remains the same. Sanders' development is tied to decisions he does not control. Ultimately, the pass attempt comparison has become symbolic of a broader tension within the organization. It reflects the debate over whether the Browns are truly committed to giving Sanders the opportunity to grow, or whether their conservative approach is unintentionally limiting him. As the season progresses, this discrepancy will continue to shape public perception of both the coaching staff and the young quarterback they are guiding. As Cleveland prepares for its upcoming matchup, the conversation surrounding Shedeur Sanders shows no signs of fading. Instead, it has evolved into a wider examination of the Browns' long-term vision. Supporters, critics, and analysts now find themselves debating not just Sanders' performance, but the philosophy guiding his development. Is the coaching staff deliberately protecting him from early mistakes, or inadvertently preventing him from becoming the quarterback he has the potential to be? The uncertainty extends beyond statistics. Every limited game plan, every conservative drive, and every missed opportunity adds to the growing perception that the Browns have yet to fully commit to a direction. If Sanders is meant to be their future, many believe he must be allowed to play like a quarterback developing for the future, not one being sheltered from it. Yet others view the current approach as a cautious investment, grounded in patience rather than hesitation. What happens next will be shaped largely by the decisions made in the coming weeks. If the limitations continue, questions about trust and transparency within the coaching staff will only intensify. If the playbook opens up, it may signal a shift toward growth, confidence, and a willingness to let Sanders take command of the offense. For now, the situation remains unresolved. The only certainty is that Shedeur Sanders' progression and the Browns' willingness to support it will remain at the center of Cleveland's football conversation. How the organization chooses to navigate this moment will shape not only Sanders' development, but the trajectory of the team moving forward.